Hey, Horse Center fans. Matt and I are here with another edition of Horse Center. Matt, I think we're talking Kentucky Derby preps this week.
We sure are, Brian. We're going down to Gulfstream Park for the nice warm field of 10 in the Holy Bull, and then to New York for the Withers, and out west for the Robert B. Lewis.
Sounds good to me, Matt. We also have Mackenzie in his first race back from the big Malibu win, and we need to talk about what happened on Pegasus World Cup Day. All here now on Horse Center. Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the outstanding pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm very cold, Brian. Very, very cold. But let's set that aside. We got three big Kentucky Derby preps coming up on Saturday.
That's right, Matt. It's time to warm up the viewers. The Pegasus is over. We're moving full bore into Kentucky Derby prep season. And this Saturday is a pretty big one, Matt. Going coast to coast. Let's start in South Florida. We got a field of 10 going in the 11th race at Gulfstream Park. It's mile 16th Holy Bull, Matt. And I think we have to start with the undefeated colt from the Butch Reed barn. That's Maximus Mischief.
Yeah, we sure do. Everybody wants to be in Florida, I guess, Brian, with a really nice field of 10. Undefeated Maximus Mischief for Butch Reed, 3 for 3, coming off that big win in the Remsen, headed to Florida. Hey, Brian, he's already gone a mile and an eighth, so I don't see any reason why Maximus Mischief isn't going to be able to control this race on the front end. It doesn't seem like it's a field that is particularly speedy. I think Maximus Mischief is a really strong favorite in here.
Whoa, slow down 1 minute, Matt Schiffman. I agree. First off, I think Maximus Mischief is for real. So much so I just wrote a recent article comparing him to Smarty Jones. Not comparing him to Smarty Jones, of course, in totality, and that he'll be as good as Smarty Jones. But where he is now reminds me a whole lot. Running style, the way he looks running, and what he's done in his first 3 races reminds me quite a bit of Smarty Jones from about 15 years ago, Matt. However, I will disagree with you on one point. I think there is speed in here. There's several horses who like to be on the lead, some of them coming out of sprints. There's speed right to his outside. He drew the 8-hole in here, and the 2 horses outside him certainly have speed. So I think it's a question what's going to happen early, and if he's headstrong and needs the lead, I think this could be a dangerous race for him. Having said that, he is my top pick because I think he is a classy enough horse to be able to sit in second or third if he needs to. We will see. But interesting pace scenario for me anyway. And that might set it up for a little bit for the horse who I think is going to be the second choice. And that's a horse who's won a couple straight, son of Carol Prince for Centennial Farm. That's Mijos.
Yeah, Mijos, that's Jimmy Jerkins trained, coming into this Holy Bull off a nice maiden win at Aqueduct. And then that big closing move in the Mucho Macho Man. I agree, Brian. A very nice horse for both of them. We are at the point on the Derby Trail where it's time to learn more about these horses as now they step up and face other winners of races on the Derby Trail in a field of 10, which has some quality in it.
Absolutely, Matt. And Mijos looks like a colt with quality. We've been talking about him. He ran into a really, really strong maiden race in his debut, and then he's looked very good winning his last 2. The Mucho Macho Man was fun because Trophy Chaser looked like he was almost home free there at the 8th pole, and Mijos really kicked it in late to get up and win that Mucho Macho Man over this Gulfstream Park track. So Mijos comes in on a high note, looks like a horse who should be good getting the distance. And if I'm right, if there is quite a bit of speed in here, that should only help him. Trophy Chaser, who he just got up to beat, is not in this one. The 3rd place horse, Garter and Tie, a nice enough horse, a stakes winner from that Mucho Macho Man, is in here. If Mijos isn't the second choice, probably goes to the undefeated son of gemologist from the Pletcher barn. That's Federal Case, Matt.
Yeah, probably. Pletcher really has been flying under the radar on the Derby Trail so far, but with Federal Case, he's got one that looks to have potential. Again, is got to make that next step up, but 2 for 2, a maiden special weight win at Keeneland, and then a win in an allowance at Gulfstream Park. Was a $650,000 yearling purchase, a son of gemologist. So all of those things are good indicators for success on the Derby Trail. I think this one's going to be one of those horses that can sit in a stalking position. And hey, we'll see what Pletcher and Federal Case have got.
Yeah, Matt, he's definitely making a step up. I think Maximus Mischief and especially Mijos have run against better horses than Federal Case. But yeah, we've certainly seen Pletcher horses step up at this time of year before, and Federal Case certainly is eligible to do it. He didn't win either race at Keeneland, as you mentioned, or Gulfstream Park last time by a lot, but a little improvement, and he's a dangerous horse in here. Those are the 3 favorites: Maximus Mischief with Mijos and Federal Case, Matt. Dale Romans is always dangerous this time of year. He's got a pair in here, including Come On Jerry, who's coming off a pretty nice win at Gulfstream. But the horse I think who might upset an apple cart, at least to get into the exotics as a bit of a long shot, is Epic Dreamer. And Matt, Epic Dreamer is familiar with Mijos. They ran together in that debut performance for both of them. Epic Dreamer came back also with a nice maiden win, but last time he was 6th in the Springboard Mile, Matt. And I think people are going to see that. They're going to dismiss the Son of Orb out of that performance. But I watched that race, Matt, and I thought it was a pretty awful trip where he was just bottled up between horses the whole way around. Big, strong Son of Orb. I think he can bounce back and put in a much better effort on Saturday.
Yeah, Brian, Epic Dreamer, I know after that race at Remington Park in the Springboard Mile, trainer Kelly Breen was really, really disappointed in the trip that his horse had, especially after they came around the turn into the stretch. He really, really got bottled up and had a lot of traffic and couldn't get running in there. So that 6th place finish in there is really deceptive. I don't know necessarily how much that's going to show up in the charts for people that are casually wagering, but if you watch the race, I think it's a valid excuse, and I think Epic Dreamer showed some quality in early races. He did beat Mijos in one of those maiden races, but again, has to show more in here, but will be a good price.
Yeah, Matt, it sounds like we agree on our top long shot here in this field of 10 for the Holy Bull. Epic Dreamer from Kelly Breen's barn. Look for a bounce back performance. He did not run his race in Oklahoma. By the way, Matt, the winner of that Springboard Mile, Long Range Toddy, I thought ran a very good race this past week at Oaklawn Park to be a good second in the Smarty Jones. So that race came back with the winner running well. Epic Dreamer didn't have a full chance. Good long shot. Maximus Mischief, the one to beat. Matt, Mijos, maybe the most likely to do it. Epic Dreamer, top long shot. Federal Case is one to watch out for. It should be an interesting little race down in Florida.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brian.
All right, Matt, let's head up the coast. We'll head from the warmth of sunny southern Florida, or we hope it's sunny. They've had some rain lately, as we all know, up to the frigid cold where you are, Matt. It's the Withers. It's the Withers, Matt. And hey, when I saw the morning line for the Withers, I was a little surprised that Moretti, lightly raced son of Medagliadoro, was a clear favorite on the morning line, Matt. 1 for 2, coming off a maiden win. Is he a deserving favorite in this Withers?
I think it's an interesting field for sure. The Withers field, at some point they expected a little bit a larger field, but it's a field of 7, and by Saturday, the temperatures are supposed to be up a little bit. It's supposed to be in the 30s. No Florida by any means, or California, but this frigid weather that has canceled racing at Aqueduct as we're taping should be gone. The couple things you can say about Moretti, again, we're talking about another Todd Pletcher here. We're talking about a horse that broke its maiden at Aqueduct, going the 1.125 distance. And that is not something that you can say about any of the other horses in this field, that they've gone the 1.125. And to be able to successfully go a 1.125 at Aqueduct, which is a deep track, which is a tiring track, especially on that kind of day when Moretti was victorious, is a feather in the cap of the horse. It's a Medaglia d'Oro. It's a $900,000 yearling purchase for the partnership of Mike Rapoli and Eclipse Thoroughbreds. On that alone, knowing that he can get that distance probably is a reason to be a favorite. Although there are some other horses in here that are interesting. 2 from Cassie, an interesting horse from Danny Gargan, and John Service.
Yeah, Matt, I'm gonna take a little bit of a stand here against Moretti. I think the odds are too low. I think he's getting too much credit for his breeding and his price tag and being part of the Pletcher barn. He reminds me a little bit, to tell you the truth, of Marconi, who never really got it done in stakes racing, another high-priced Pletcher of recent years. And Moretti, he was second in a maiden debut, wasn't really close to winning, and then really not a fast 1.125 win in his maiden race where he was a clear favorite. So I'm going to take a stand against. Having said that, he does have a little bit more speed, tactical speed, than Marconi did for sure, and he's getting blinkers on. So I wouldn't be surprised if Moretti runs a very good race in the Withers and turns out to be a really nice horse. But as the favorite, I don't want him on my ticket, really. The second choice, I don't think you've mentioned yet, or you said a couple from Cass. He's got a stakes winner coming down from Canada who hasn't won on regular dirt yet. But I think the other Cassie is the second choice, Our Brain Trust. Ran a very good race to be second behind Mind Control in the Jerome. And, a legitimate performance there, and he had run well before that. I'm a little worried about him at 9 furlong. So the top 2 favorites, I'm not really on, Matt. So we're going to have to go deeper down for me. You started to mention Tax a little bit, and he's my top choice. Speaking of a 1.125, I like his race at a 1.125 at Aqueduct better than Moretti's. And that was where he was a very good third, a game third to Maximus Mischief in the Remsen. I think Maximus Mischief, for my money, is the best horse that's run, best 3-year-old that's run on the East Coast yet. So I thought it was a good performance coming off of a couple of claiming races in Kentucky. But if you look, those performances were solid. He changed barns, as you said, and really liked what I saw in the Remsen. He gets the 1 haul. He's got tactical speed. As the third choice, I'm happy to put my money on Tax.
Yeah, and Tax, as you were saying, Brian, after that Remsen was privately purchased, and in that race, Tax, the strategy was from Danny Gargan, they were going to go out there and they were going to challenge Maximus Mischief, and as you said, Brian, that's challenging a very, very good horse, a horse that's high on a lot of people's Derby top 10 lists. There is other speed in this Withers, but it is not speed of that kind of quality of Maximus Mischief. Being on the rail, I fully expect, and it is Danny Gargan's way to be aggressive in races. I fully expect Tax to go out on the lead or right on the lead and try and take this race from the beginning. Has already gone a distance of ground in there, so a lot of good things that you can say. And it's an interesting horse, a former horse that Gargan claimed for $50,000 out of his maiden victory at Keeneland. So that may turn out to be a pretty crafty claim.
Yes, I think it will be. It already was to some extent with that good performance in the Remsens. So, folks, what I'm saying is, hey, it's the third choice behind certainly Moretti and Our Brain Trust. There's no Maximus Mischief in here. If Tax can just really duplicate the performance where he was a good third in the Remsen, I think he's the horse to beat in here. Matt, there's another one, maybe even a little higher odds, that I also think is got a big shot in here, and that's Admire Dale Romans is sending this one to New York. Dale Romans has sent horses this time of year and won in New York before. This Santa Cairo Prince is well liked, and he really had some trouble in his first race at Churchill Downs, ran against some good horses there in his debut performance. Second time out, he came back and won nicely. So I think the Romans runner, Admire, has a shot in here. And Lucky Lee's coming off a couple of nice wins for John Service over at Parks. He's maybe more the speed you were talking about, but of the pair, I think Admire might be more interesting in this spot.
Yeah, and you have to take note of Lucky Lee. 2 nice wins down at Parks, and the thing that you can say about that is that the Parks racetrack has some similarities to Aqueduct in terms of it being a deep track and a tiring track and a track that doesn't necessarily produce clock times that are fast. Got a good speed figure out of his last race, has gone a mile in both of those. It's John Service. He knows how to get horses ready for big races. This one's going to be a challenge out on the front end for Tax. Out of the other ones, there's a New York bred out on the outside for Rudy Rodriguez that doesn't probably have the quality, but may be a pace factor to some extent also.
I'm with you there, Matt. Not that Brady is coming off 2 nice wins. He really turned things around in the Rudy Rodriguez barn, but I think this one might be a little bit up there for him. So I'm going with Tax in the Withers, Matt. And how about we head out west to California, to Robert B. Lewis. It looks like we're going to have a clear top 2 on the odds board. It's race 6, nice card, Santa Anita, mile and a 16th, only a field of 6. Certainly looks like Mucho Gusto and Gunmetal Gray are the top 2 favorites.
Yeah, that's for sure, Brian, out there. And let's remember that Gunmetal Gray is coming into the race off of a victory in the Sham just a month ago for Jerry Hollendorfer. And interestingly in here, the services of Mike Smith up in the saddle. So Mike Smith will be staying on Gunmetal Gray. He will not be riding the Baffert horse in here. And Gunmetal Gray in that Sham unleashed a really nice closing move. This is Gunmetal Gray, who was 5th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and was 2nd last year in the American Pharaoh Stakes behind Game Winner. So this is a horse that we know has quality, and the other one is Mucho Gusto, as I said, is the Baffert in here, will be ridden by Joe Talamo. Right,
Matt, and you kind of ran down Gunmetal Gray a little bit here. Mike Smith is an important rider. Of course, he wins so many of these big races. There's a lot of reasons to like Gunmetal Gray. He's run against good horses now for a long time. He's coming off that nice Sham win over the track. But I don't see this as a good spot for him, especially as a clear second choice or possibly even the favorite. I think he will be the second choice in here. There's just not a lot of speed, and he's a horse that really needs to rally in a small field. I don't think he's going to get the setup that he got in the Sham. On the other hand, Mucho Gusto does have a lot of speed, and I think he can control the race, the son of Mucho Macho Man. Matt, he was a stakes winner sprinting before he ran into Improbable last time in the Los Al Futurity. He was no match for Improbable, but he hung on for second there. Now he really should have things his own way early, probably the favorite for Baffert. I see him as clearly the one of the 2 to beat in here. Mucho Macho Man, being a son of Mucho Macho Man, I expect that he can get a distance win at a distance, and a mile and 16th without a lot of pace pressure should be right up his alley.
Yeah, I think that last statement that you made is the key. Without a lot of pace pressure in there, I'm not real convinced, even with the Mucho Macho Man in there, about how far he's going to be able to go. But in this case, he sure looks like lone speed in there for a horse that likes to run on the front end. He should probably be able to stretch it out there, and as good as Gunmetal Gray has been, he's not getting the setup in there. Out of the other 6, I guess Nolo Contesto maybe is worth a mention in there. That's a John Sadler with Joel Rosario up from Horonis Racing. It's all the connections from the Accelerator crowd. Was close to $400,000 yearling purchase, a son of Pioneer of the Nile, had a nice mile maiden special weight victory in there. So he might be one to get into the and hit the board.
I agree with you, Matt. Yeah, if you're trying to beat that chalky exacta mucho gusto over Gunmetal Gray here in the Robert B. Lewis, I think Nolo Contesto makes a lot of sense. He had a ton of trouble in his first race. As you said, he's John Sadler, the son of Pioneer of the Nile, came back, won nicely in his second start, and now he gets the litmus test. He goes right into grade racing in his third start. And with Gunmetal Gray not getting the pace that he wants, I think he might have a hard time even getting to Nolo Contesto for second. So that would be my exacta mucho gusto on top of Nolo Contesto. It sounds like a very Latin 1-2 for me in here, Matt. The other one I should mention is Easy Shot. He's going to be longer odds for Keith DeSormo. I just think he might move forward a little bit, get a little bit of trouble behind Gunmetal Gray and the Sham. And he might be that sneaky horse that DeSormo can get into the picture at least a little bit in the Robert B. Lewis. All right, Matt, the Robert B. Lewis is our last Derby prep to preview today on HorseCenter. There is another very interesting race at Santa Anita on the same card, though. I'm talking about the San Pasqual, which is race 9 on that card, going 9 furlongs for older horses. It features the return of McKinsey. Everybody wants to see McKinsey now. City of Light is retired, Accelerate's retired. McKinsey could find himself as the leader of the older male dirt division here if he can back up that Malibu win with another strong performance in the San Pasqual. Son of Street Sense for trainer Bob Baffert will certainly be favored in the San Pasqual, Matt, but there's some other nice horses in here. I'm going to list a few. Battle of Midway, a former Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner, Dobster, Pavel, and Giant Expectations. So this is a reasonable test for McKinsey.
It sure is, and especially when you look at McKinsey's record and what maybe Baffert has coming down the road for McKinsey. He's been a horse that's kind of been a little bit of an in and outer, a horse that hasn't put 2 wins together recently. I mean, granted, he's running against very, very good horses in grade 1s, etc. But like you said, Brian, this is a good field. And is this the goal for Baffert right here with McKinsey? Or are they looking at things down the road, possibly? It's not going to be easy. And McKinsey's going to get bet heavily.
He'll be bet heavily, and Matt, he's never run against older horses. I realize now that he's an older horse as a newly turned 4-year-old, but his only try against older horses, of course, was the Breeders' Cup Classic, and that didn't go well for him. Different kind of test in here, obviously, but Battle of Midway is a really nice horse. He's come back into good form again, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner of 2017. Last time he got beat by Gift Box in the San Antonio, but he gave that one a couple pounds and he did not have the benefit of the trip. Certainly Gift Box got the better setup that day. So Battle of Midway is in good form. He could beat McKinsey if McKinsey doesn't bring his A game on Saturday in the San Pasqual. But either way, it'll be interesting to see just how good McKinsey might be in 2019. They're talking Dubai World Cup, and this will be a nice little test for him, his first race as a 4-year-old. Matt, I think also before we end the show, we certainly need to talk a little bit of what went down Saturday in the Pegasus World Cup and the card there, Matt. Unfortunately, a big part of the story was the weather. Rain, go away. It never did. Sloppy track, wet turf course. And that sloppy track certainly played a part, at least, in the result of the $9 million Pegasus World Cup.
It sure did. And it was just simply said a wow performance by City of Light, trained by Michael McCarthy. He got the City of Light very, very, very good as his career ended with 2 absolutely amazing victories, that Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and then the Pegasus. And I guess we have to look at this at half full, Brian, the glass half full, and say, hey, I'm glad we got to see City of Light run one more time in the Pegasus. But then on the other hand, I'm going to be me and say, wow, the way that horse ran, I sure wish we could have gotten to see City of Light throughout this 2019, because I think he could have done some amazing things.
Yeah, City of Light is a nice horse, and I said that after he got beaten the Forgo last summer, Matt. This is a real bona fide horse, and he exceeded my expectations in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and here in the Pegasus. He ran his race, and his race was big, and I don't care about the slop. City of Light very well probably would have run the same race on a fast dirt track. The problem, though, Matt, is there's probably a lot of horses in the race who did not run their best race. Certainly a speed track, as we saw it develop all day long, and that helped City of Light. But there were others, including the favorite, Accelerate. I know Accelerate was you were top pick in here, and we should not forget about Accelerate and say City of Light is the better horse just because of this one race. It doesn't matter anymore because they're both retiring. In fact, they're both retiring to the same stud farm. But Accelerate, it was set up more for City of Light, and City of Light probably handled the track a little bit better than Accelerate. Seeking the Soul rallied up nicely on the inside to get second. Accelerate, held on nicely for third. Other horses, I think, maybe Bravazzo, Audible, Gunavera, didn't run their absolute best on this surface, and that's a shame. But kudos to City of Light. He was awesome and a great way to go out. Also awesome on the same card, Matt, the $7 million Breeders' Cup Pegasus Turf, bricks and mortar. This horse has only run 8 times in his life. He had over 14 months off. He's come back, promising turf horse as a 3-year-old. He's come back for trainer Chad Brown late in his 4-year-old season and now early in his 5-year-old season, and he looks like a real deal kind of turf horse. That was a big performance, the race before the Pegasus World Cup.
It sure was, and Chad Brown, he does things that most trainers don't even think about doing. The bricks and mortar had some serious surgery to correct some problems, and that's why he was off for almost a year or so, and had that allowance win. But most of us didn't want to bet on a horse with those kind of things going on as the favorite. But you know what, Brian? I guess we just got to say it's Chad Brown, and you can't dismiss a horse like that under any conditions. I sure hope that things continue to go well for the horse and stays healthy, because we might have an exciting male American turf horse.
Absolutely, Matt. Give credit to Chad Brown, but also give credit to bricks and mortar. Like I said, only 8 lifetime starts for the newly turned 5-year-old, and he looks like he could be one of America's top turf horses this year. Finally, Matt, I want to mention Hidden Scroll, who won a maiden race, the 4th race on the card Pegasus Day. The son of Hard Spun out of a Empire Maker mare out of the Bill Mott barn, absolutely bombarded his competition in this maiden race.
Sure, and has become the buzz horse on the Derby Trail. A fantastic performance. Lots of comparisons to other horses in the past. But again, it's one of those wins on a sloppy track, and this was a particularly fast sloppy track, one that had been sealed and had gotten packed down and gotten very, very hard. So we'll need to see Hidden Scroll back up that race on a dry track. We'll need to see what Bill Mott does with him next time. As we know, Bill Mott is not a guy that's gonna rush horses along, but I expect that we'll see him taking a shot on the Derby Trail, probably in one of those 50-point races, or who knows, maybe waiting for one of the 100-point races for this Judd Runner.
Absolutely. Huge performance, Matt. He won by, I believe it was over 14 lengths. The time was scintillating for a young debut horse to run a mile and 134 and change. But I agree with all the things you said. Sloppy track. I love hard spuns on sloppy tracks, by the way, Matt. So it figures that he would like the track. And you just don't know what exactly that race means. If it was on a fast track, I think it would mean more. But having said that, he certainly could bring that same kind of talent to a fast track. It's just kind of a wait and see. But he's on everybody's radar after that performance at Gulfstream Park, that's for sure. Hey, Matt, I want to thank all the viewers again for watching HorseCenter like they do every week. We sure do appreciate you tuning in. And I also want to thank our sponsor, the best contest site out there, Derby Wars. Folks, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel here on Horse Racing Nation, please do so. And Matt, I know you're freezing your petunias off out there in the East Coast. We're pretty close with Kentucky here, by the way. But can I get a parting shot from you, sir?
Yes, exciting weekend, folks, and please enjoy all of these Derby preps. Brian and I will be back next weekend to talk about them. And as always, I want to thank our producer and our friend Brett Workman for putting together the show.
Thanks to Brett. Thanks to you, folks. We'll be back next week with another great edition of HorseCenter. See you then.